Hello, as you know, I'm Kindson, the tech professional, and just as you've seen in the screen, this will be a 35-minute course on introduction to application development, and then we'll have to use 15 minutes to take through some lab work, hands-on development of an Android program. So sit tight, and in the next presentation, I'll take you through an introductory facts and figures about mobile application development, and then we go into the course proper. Alright, let me have you get to know some facts and figures relating to mobile application development. Mobile application is something that affects you personally. It affects you. I can guess now you are using a mobile device, and maybe you may have two mobile devices or even more. 90% of everybody living in this world accesses his email through a mobile device. That is a study that was carried out last year. Says of 100 emails that we access, 90% of them was accessed through a mobile device. And that is interesting because this trend continues to grow. Imagine, for 100 emails, we have 90% of them was accessed through a mobile device. Now take the statistics again. 70% of persons that were interviewed say that they will change their mind with respect to a particular brand if that brand offers mobile services. What it means is, if there are two banks, one bank offers mobile banking and the other bank does not offer mobile banking, most of the people will go for the bank that offers mobile banking. Another statistic says that about a quarter of people today, a quarter of the search queries that is received through Google and through other search engines come through mobile devices. So the trend continues. In fact, mobile devices is a nice big thing. There is a movement from desktop to mobile devices. People work from home, people work on the airport, they work in transit in the aircraft. So mobile devices are things that has come to stay. So today we are going to see what really is involved in mobile devices, how to develop application in mobile device. One thing I want to let you know is you don't need to be a computer programmer or a software engineer to be able to develop application on mobile device. You can do it. In the lab work of 15 minutes, you'll see how we can use a tool to develop an application in mobile device. What I want to tell you is, don't fast forward this video, just stay on track, listen to me as I explain the concept to you, and we'll get to the coursework, we'll do it together, and you see how easy it is. So when we come back, we now look at the various platforms that is there to develop mobile devices. Let's now go through the application development process. What is the process like? Before now, I say you should not rush to start developing. So what should you do? What is the process like? If you have a pen and a paper, maybe you might be able to take down the process of developing an application. Although if you are learning and playing around with the IDE or the software, you may not strictly follow this procedure, but if you really want to build a mobile app that you want to use, you want to enjoy using, you want to follow this procedure. The first one is have an objective. That's the first one. If you want to start building, have in mind, why am I building this app? What is the objective of this application? Have it clearly in mind. The next thing is do some feasibility study. Alright, very important. You want to ask yourself, what similar application is there in the store? If the application is much in the store and so many persons are using it, you may ask yourself, what are the lapses of the existing application, and how can I make it better, make an improvement on this for my users? Then the next step, if you have done a good feasibility study and you want to continue with this development, you want to now make a sketch. Use a pen and a paper to develop a sketch. Sketch out the interface of your application. So let's say you want to build an application that has a login screen. Make a sketch that has a username, password, and then login. Okay, so make a sketch of your screens, the screen that will be part of your application. And the next thing, you now choose a programming language. You want to choose a programming language. Don't just use any programming language that is default for the application you use, because for some applications we have a default programming language. But for you, choose a programming language that you want to use and make sure you stick with that programming language. If you make sure of all these, then the next thing you want to do is you want to choose the tools you want to use. Are you going to be using designing using Java tools, Microsoft tools? You need to choose. If you make sure of all these, then you can go ahead to start building your app. So these are the basic procedure to follow. Maybe you can stop and rewind the video so that you get these procedures right. Alright, I've got that question so many times. Where do I start from as a beginner? I'm not a programmer, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a computer science student or a researcher, so where do I start from? Well, I'll say it depends on two things. One, it depends on your background, and it also depends on where you are. If you are in the United States, a good starting point will be the iOS platform. The only thing about the iOS is that you need a Mac to be able to develop using iOS. Another good starting point will be Android. For me, Android has been the easiest to use so far. In fact, when I started using Android a couple of years ago, I never believed how easy it is to develop a complete full-fledged application in Android. Remember, that was 2011. I developed my first application. I called it Payroll. So this application takes in a gross payment, it takes in a percentage deduction, percentage tax, and then calculates the net pay of the employee. I developed it in Android without having prior experience in Android development. Although I've been a computer programmer for the past 17 years, that is 1999 till date, yes. But Android development, I think that will be a good starting point for you. And for our presentation, we are going to be using Android to develop our first mobile application. The 15 minutes lab work that we are going to do in this presentation is going to be developing a mobile application in Android. So we'll continue in the next presentation as we'll now discuss the various programming languages that you need to learn to develop mobile application. Alright, mobile programming languages. They are not too much different from computer programming languages. So before now, you know something about Java, you've heard of Fortran, you've heard of BASIC, you've heard of Visual Basic, C++, C#, name them. There are dozens and scores of programming languages. But when it comes to developing mobile applications, we actually stick with about a dozen of them. But in this course, we will outline about 6 major mobile programming languages that is in use today. Of course, the first one, the most common, is Java. Almost every mobile development platform has to do with Java, except a few like Windows and the BlackBerry 10 OS. But pretty much every other thing has to do with Java. So The programming language Java is one of the main programming languages. I'm not saying that you should start learning Java as a beginner, but when it comes to mobile programming languages, Java tends to be the most widely recognized, the most important, the most widely used programming language. Now the next one is Objective-C. Objective-C is used to develop iOS applications. So if you are going to be developing applications that run on the Mac, on the iPad, on the iPhone 6X, iPhone 7, you will learn Objective-C. An alternative to that is Swift. So most times when you start developing iOS application, you actually choose between the two. You choose between Objective-C, Objective-C, and then you also have Swift. So the Swift and Objective-C is exclusively to develop iOS application. Java is more or less a wide range of application. And then we have Microsoft. Microsoft have two major programming languages for developing mobile application. In fact, if you are going to be developing an application for Windows Phone, you have to either learn C# or Visual Basic. So C# and Visual Basic are the two applications that are produced by Microsoft that are used for mobile application development. So let's outline them. I've mentioned Java. I think Java is the most popular, and I have Swift and Objective-C, and we have C#, and then we have VB. Alright, so these are the major programming languages you need to know for mobile application development. When I come next, we now look at the various architectures of mobile application development. Alright, so that question is very important. Whether you are developing a mobile application or you are developing just a desktop application, you have to try to find out which programming language are you going to learn first. Personally, I started with Basic, the good old Basic, the one that runs on a black screen, and then I moved to Fortran. But for now, I don't think you start with any of them. You, as a beginner, you can go for Visual Basic. How? If you know Visual Basic, you'll be able to develop desktop application, may be able to develop a Windows Phone application. You can also go for C#. But as a complete beginner, I'll say you learn Visual Basic. But if you are a hobbyist, you are just trying to develop applications for mobile devices that you run on your personal phone, that you share with your friends, you stick with me here, as I'm going to be using Android for our development. So for a complete beginner, you just want to learn computer programming, you go for Visual Basic. The reason is because it's very easy to learn. But if you want to be a hobbyist, an amateur developer on mobile programming, then you stick with me here, as we are going to use Java to be developing mobile application. So let's now take a look at some of the components of the mobile application architecture. Alright, let's now look at the components of the mobile application architecture. Any system in the world must have an architecture. What are the components that make up the architecture? For instance, if you are browsing a website, you know that the architecture is something like the client-server architecture. You have the client and the server. So these are the two things. So you have information moving back and forth, the client and the server. You have some codes running here. In the server you have maybe C#, you have ASPX. But when it comes to mobile application, it's a little different. Let's now look at all the components that make up a mobile application. All right, let's first talk about the platform. The platform. All right, we've discussed platform shortly before now, and we say platform has to do with the base, the basic foundation of your application. It is not necessarily the OS, but it might be the OS, but not necessarily the OS. The difference is that the platform is always not an OS, but the OS is always the platform. What it means is that you can have a platform that is not a full-fledged operating system. For instance, you may have a runtime. Like when I bought my HTC phone running on Windows, well, it's a Windows operating system, but it has a platform for Java, meaning that you can grab a Java application and run it right there in that Windows phone. So it means that there is a platform right inside the operating system, like a virtual machine, if you've used a virtual machine before, or a runtime. So the platform is not always the operating system. So the two key components of the architecture is the platform and the OS. We also have the form factor is also an important component. Form factor has to do with the size of the device you are targeting. For instance, will it be the size of an iPad? Will it be for iPhone 6X? Will it be for iPhone 7? Will it be just a little Nokia phone? So the form factor is also very, very important component of the mobile application. Then you also have the programming language. We've discussed that. So the underlying programming language the application runs on is also a component. One question that I thought of is, why do we not have a cross-platform application such that you don't have to develop for a particular platform or a particular form factor? Well, that brings us to this issue of application versus website, because if we have a web application, it can be accessed from any browser, from any operating system. But when it comes to mobile applications, is a little different from a website. The functionalities of mobile application is optimized when it's targeted to a particular mobile device or mobile platform. But if you are going to build a website, you may find out that you'll be losing some functionalities. So that trade-off has to be made between an app and a site. So those are the two things you need to keep in mind. So just a recap: we have the platform, we have the OS, we have the form factor, and then you have decision between an application and a website. So let's now take a look at some other points that will help us understand the concepts of mobile application development better. Okay, so the do's and the don'ts. I don't really like people starting to learn programming and halfway they leave it behind because they've not actually taken note of the points I'm going to make right now. So take note of these do's and don'ts. The first one, don't rush to start developing mobile application. I've seen some friends of mine, they want to learn, they want to develop, they quickly install the application, start building, file new application, and they hit a brick wall and then they stop. They feel it's too difficult and they stop. The problem is they rush to start developing mobile applications. So the don't there is, don't rush to start developing mobile application. I will outline the procedure for you to follow, and if you stick with that procedure, you can always develop anything you want. Another point is always have a pen and a paper. That is a do. Do have a pen and a paper. If you are a developer and you don't have a pen and a paper to make your sketch or to make storyboards, then most likely you may not be able to develop complex application. In fact, you may not even get too far. Another point is you need to have an objective of your mobile application development. There are two broad categories of objectives. It can be for learning, it can also be for commercial use. So if it's for learning, either you're an amateur, you are just developing an application you want to share with your friends, with your mom, with your dad, with your siblings, and maybe use on your mobile phone, that is okay. Then you also have this want to develop application you want to put that in the App Store or in the Play Store or in the Microsoft Store. That is also an objective. So you need to have a clear objective in mind. Another important point is don't only use videos as your learning material. If you only use videos like the one I'm making now, I tell you honestly, you might not go far. So go grab a textbook. Like personally, when I started, I bought this Visual Basic textbook by Anita Millspaw. That should be 2005. I can't remember. So one thing you need to do is buy a programming textbook. So if you make sure of these things, take note of these do's and don'ts. But the most important one, don't rush to start developing application. Don't rush to install application and start clicking on file new. You are going to hit a dead end and you are going to abandon everything altogether. So follow the procedure and then you'll get things done. Let's now go through the application development process. What is the process like? Before now, I say you should not rush to start developing. So what should you do? What is the process like? If you have a pen and a paper, maybe you might be able to take down the process of developing an application. Although if you are learning and playing around with the IDE or the software, you may not strictly follow this procedure, but if you really want to build a mobile app that you want to use, you want to enjoy using, you want to follow this procedure. The first one is have an objective. That's the first one. If you want to start building, have in mind, why am I building this app? What is the objective of this application? Have it clearly in mind. The next thing is do some feasibility study. Alright, very important. You want to ask yourself what similar application is there in the store. If the application is much in the store and so many persons are using it, you may ask yourself what are the lapses of the existing application and how can I make it better, make an improvement on this for my users. Then the next step, if you have done a good feasibility study and you want to continue with this development, you want to now make a sketch. Use a pen and a paper to develop a sketch. Sketch out the interface of your application. So let's say you want to build an application that has a login screen. Make a sketch that has a username, password, and then login. Okay, so make a sketch of your screens, the screen that will be part of your application. And the next thing, you now choose a programming language. You want to choose a programming language. Don't just use any programming language that is default for the application you use, because for some applications we have a default programming language, but or you choose a programming language that you want to use and make sure you stick with that programming language. If you make sure of all these, then the next thing you want to do is you want to choose the tools you want to use. Are you going to be using designing using Java tools, Microsoft tools? You need to choose. If you make sure of all these, then you can go ahead to start building your app. So these are the basic procedure to follow. Maybe you can stop and rewind the video so that you get these procedures right. So what are the various tools you need in your toolbox as an application developer for mobile? The good news is that almost all the tools for mobile application development is free. The first one I would like to let you know, which is the one we use for our lab, is the Android Studio. The Android Studio, make no mistake about it, is a very powerful application. The Android Studio is a full-fledged IDE with so many features, very much easy to use, with code assistant, with syntax coloration to help you write your code. You don't need to be a super programmer for you to develop an application using an Android Studio. The next one I also have used is Xcode. Xcode is an application developed by Apple. Xcode is only installed in Mac. It doesn't go into Windows. So for you to develop iOS application for Apple iPhones, for iPads, for MacBook, for Watch OS, you also need to have Xcode in your toolbox. And then that means you need a Mac. Android Studio runs on Windows, it runs on Mac, it runs on Linux, but Xcode, Apple have restricted it to run only on Mac. There is no Xcode version for the Windows OS. Another one, we have Netbeans. Netbeans was developed for Java programming language. It was developed, I think, by Sun Microsystem. And it's also a free IDE, fully featured IDE you can use. One thing good about Netbeans is that you can install plugins to help you write programs in other languages like C++, like Python. And that goes also with another important tool, and that is Eclipse. Eclipse is a little like Netbeans, but not exactly the same. For me, Eclipse is more advanced Netbeans, but Eclipse was developed by Eclipse. So that's another tool. All these tools I've outlined here, they are free tools. You can easily go to developers.android.com/studio. You get Android. You go to the Apple Store in your Mac. You can easily get Xcode and install it on your Mac. Netbeans and Eclipse, they're also free tools you can use. Alright, so 5, the only tool that is not free and is Microsoft's Visual Studio. Microsoft Visual Studio. Visual Studio is for developing Microsoft application, but you need to install the Windows Phone XDK. For you to develop Windows mobile application or Windows Phone application on using Visual Studio, you need to install the SDK, and you'll be able to develop a Windows application on Visual Studio. I think these are the the basic tools you need, and a few other plugins. One thing I want to let you know is if you're installing your app to develop a mobile application, don't use a typical installation. Use custom installation, and make sure you check or you choose all the plugins, and so that during the installation process you'll be able to download the necessary plugin. For instance, you may not have emulators for all the phones or for many of the phones in the typical installation, but if you download if you go to choose all the plugins, it may help you to download all the necessary emulators for you, so that you'll be able to test your application on different devices. Alright, so get ready for the lab. That is when I come next. We now go into the 15 minutes lab where we develop a full-fledged Android application. Alright, so the first thing we are going to do is to open Android Studio. So go to Launcher. I'm using a Mac, so in Launcher I have Android Studio, and I click to open. If you're on Windows, you might have to click on Program Files and then locate the Android Studio installation on Windows. For Mac, this is it, and wait for a couple of seconds, and the initial page comes up. So here you have a number of options. Go ahead to use the first one, start a new Android Studio project. Click on it. Give it a name, application name. Let's say first Android project. Okay, so you see it's trying to, okay, let's just say let's call it my first project. Okay, this is your first project. Company domain, if you have one, you use. If you don't, you can leave it blank. For me, I have kttpro.com, but you might just have to leave anything you see there. This is the project location in case you want to find the installation files. Then go ahead to click on next. Minimum SDK KitKat. Okay, that's fine. Then you have a minimum SDK. For here you don't have to do anything, allow everything the way it is. And so go ahead to say next. It will run on phone and tablet and adds an activity to mobile. So here you can choose from any of them, but let's leave it at empty activity, and that is the third item there. And go ahead to click on next. On this window you have activity name and layout name. These are two important things that you are going to use. Activity is just like the model that serves as a basis for your project. So just go ahead to allow everything the way they are and go ahead to click on finish. So it creates your project for you. It takes a couple of seconds, but it eventually starts up. I'm using the latest Android Studio version 2.2.3 as of the time of this recording. And if you are using the same thing, then you have to follow exactly what I'm doing. Just as I said before, I'm using a Mac, but this tutorial also applies to Windows. So it tells us compiling, configuring project app. Just have to wait patiently. So if we are successful, the initial screen is going to be displayed. Okay, so it takes a later time. Okay, so there we go. So this is what displays. You allow a little more time. It tells us executing tasks. Tips of the day, we go ahead to put this out, and then it tells us executing tasks. 2 processes running. You also wait for a couple of seconds for this thing to complete, and so if everything goes fine, we'll have the initial screen, and that is it. So the 2 files you are going to get used to, just 2 important files. After now we are going to discuss more of these files in other tutorials, but for now have in mind that we have activity main.xml and main activity.java. Activity main.xml represents the layout, the appearance, the screen, whatever component you have on the screen. It controls the appearance of your program. And activity main activity.java is actually the Java code. If we are coming from the .NET framework, this main.xml represents the ASPX file, and this represents your code behind file. If it's C#, it's .cs, or maybe as the case may be. So here we have Android activity main.java. Android is programs are written in Java. So alright, so go ahead to click on activity main.xml. It takes some time to load, and if everything goes fine, this is what we see. You always see this little icon and use it to dock or use it to hide and unhide any of the panels. So for now, these project files viewer, I can hide it by clicking this. So I increase the text size. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to run this application and let's see how it appears. It's just a blank application. After we now go ahead to add some more tests. So go ahead to, remember I clicked on this run on the toolbar and then click OK. So it takes a while to run. So we just wait patiently for it to run. Alright, so as it's running, I would like to explain one or two things to you. Under component tree, you have activity main. Okay, remember activity main.xml controls the appearance and every other component that you see on your screen. Under activity main, we have test view. So test view is a component on the screen. Okay, test view is a component on the screen. Test view represents this component that displays hello world. We can remove it after this time so that we have a completely blank screen there. Okay, so I think I need to upgrade my memory to maybe 16 gig so that I'll. Alright, so what we have there is a running app. As you can see, it's running on an emulator. So I'm going to turn it off and then put out this item here. So what we are going to do, remember this icon, use it to hide this. This hello world, we are going to remove it. Just click on it and press delete on the keyboard so that it goes. So we are going to add our own text and also a button. Alright, the first text we are going to add is my first, is a text that displays my first program. So go ahead to click on okay, go ahead to click on pellets. That should be just a second. Alright, so okay, it's already open, pellet, as you can see. So just drag a test view to the screen. I just place it there. That's fine. So the properties opens up, leave it as ID, and then go ahead to change the text to text view. Sorry, change the text to whatever you want. Just say my name is your name. My name is Kainton. That's for me. Alright, so having done this, let's just save and then run it to see how it appears. Save and then save all and then run. Okay, so it runs and displays the text on the screen. Alright, so if we are successful, that will be displayed on the mobile device. The next kind of text we are going to display is called toasts. It's called toasts. So for now, let's look at this to see that the name or the text we added is displayed there. So if you want, you can go ahead to export this application, install it on your mobile phone and then run. So now turn it on by clicking on the start button and allow some time for it to come up, waiting for target device to come online. Okay, you wait for some seconds. I think this is one problem with emulators, it takes time. Okay, so that's it. So if everything is fine, I think the next time we are not going to shut it down, we are just going to hide it behind and continue so that it doesn't take all the time to start up. So, but for now we just wait for it for the last time for it to start up. Okay, so what we have there is Right. I guess I might have shut it down. Okay, fine. So allow some time more. Allow some time. Okay, so there, my name is Kindson. So hide behind. So the next thing I'm going to do is to put a button on the screen. Oh, sorry, I say I'm going to display another kind of text. That text is going to be displayed when a button is clicked. So let's just put a button under widgets. We have text view that we used it, and then we have button. So drag and drop this button on the screen. The properties shows up. Hold on. Good. Okay, the properties shows ID button, wrap content, blah blah blah. Change the text to under text here. Change it to click me. Okay, so now I've changed it to click me. What I want you to now look at is the file activity main.xml. That is what I want us to use, and go ahead to click on text. So this is the button. Remember, I have design where we've been working, and I have text. So go ahead to click here to and under the button, just go ahead to say Android make sure you allow the closing braces to be at the end. So you have this IntelliSense. Just say onClick. The name of the onClick function, just say show. That's the name of the function, and that is just fine. So this light bulb, you click on it so that it will generate the function for us. Sorry. Okay. So okay, so click on this and then create onClick events handler, and then click OK, and then that is fine. So what you write here is you just say post, enter, always press enter, and say this, replace it with context. Okay, base context. Okay, let's leave it at this. Okay, it's fine, no problem with it. So what we want to display, enter it in between these braces here. So this is toast. Okay, this is toast. So that's it. I think that's all you need to do. So if we run it, and then we are going to click on the button to see what happens. So go back to file and then save all, go back to activity main, get back to design. Alright, so we are now going to run this application. So go to run and say run up. So to take a shorter time for it to run at this time, say Gradle build running. Okay, so okay, I think it's almost complete. Okay, launching activity. Okay, so let's look at the screen. Okay, so you can see the button click me. Okay, you can see the text. This is a toast. Click a second time. This is a toast. So this is your first Android project, and then the next project we are going to look at how to handle other events. If this has been informative for you, please subscribe. If you have any issue, leave it at the comment below. If you want, you can even share this presentation with some of your friends, and check the next video, as I'm going to explain more clearer terms how to write programs or how to develop Android application. Alright, hoping that you developed your own well. If not, leave a comment below. Tell me your problems, what the problem is. I'll be sure I'm going to reply you. If this has been informative for you, please subscribe to my channel, like my video. Feel free to leave comment there telling me exactly what the problem is. I'm going to reply, and then join me in the part 2, as we are going to develop another Android application, a more advanced one. Alright.